Guys, welcome back to another video. In this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the Canon 60D, Nikon D5200, and the Nikon D40, D40X series models. I'm going to show you how to change the manual exposure settings, the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, as well as the drive and focus modes on there. So please pay very close attention on what you have to do for each individual cameras. This will be the next step that we're going to take in learning how to take control of your cameras. So far, all we've been doing is using our cameras to take pictures in an auto mode, but now you're actually going to learn how to change each individual setting and understand why it is that you're using those settings in the first place. So if you have any questions, let me know, help each other out. The Nikon D5200 is very similar to the Canon 60D. Actually, all our cameras are similar. The only difference is how you go about changing settings. First things first, on and off switch is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's turned on. This time, what I'm going to do is show you how to manually adjust your settings. So far, I've been showing you to use the auto and no flash option. But now what I'd like you to do is go ahead and use the one that says the letter M. That stands for manual mode. Now, when you use that mode, it's going to allow us to change the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. I'm going to go ahead and press the I button right here, which means information. When you press that, you're going to see some settings on the back of the camera. It says this is our shutter speed, our aperture, and our ISO. This is actually really handy for a beginning photographer or videographer. It actually shows you all three of your settings very quickly. So what I'm going to do is show you how to change the shutter speed. Now the shutter speed on the Canon I showed you before was right here on the top, right there where it says 640. On the Nikon camera, so again, if you want to see this back screen, press the I button. To change that, it's also the top wheel. Sorry, it's this rear wheel here. So I'm going to change it and you'll see that value change. Like so. Turn it to the left to make it smaller, turn it to the right to make it bigger. The next one is our aperture value. Now F5 designates our f-stop, also known as our aperture value. To change it on this camera, it is a little bit more challenging, but you'll get used to it. You have to hold this button right here. This is the aperture button. You hold this down, and then you can turn the back wheel, and you can see it go left and right. I'm turning this wheel here and you can see it change. To change the aperture on the Canon camera, it's very similar. Actually, it's a lot simpler there. That 4.0, you just turn the back wheel of this camera right here and then it'll adjust the aperture. Okay, just like that. To change the ISO on the Nikon D5200 and most Nikons, you hold this function button that's on the left-hand side where it says FN. You hold that button down, and you'll even see this turn, you'll see this highlight right here, and you can turn this back wheel to adjust the ISO. So I'm holding this button down, I'm holding that button over here, and then I'm turning this wheel in the back. So going back to this, to change the ISO on the Canon, you just press the ISO button once, and then you can go ahead and change it up here. Okay, so very similar, they work almost the same, it's just you have to hold an additional button. So quickly review that. To change our shutter speed, it's just the back wheel, just turn it. To change our aperture, we have to hold the button, hold the aperture button, and then turn the wheel. Again, the aperture button's located right there. And then our ISO, hold the function button on the side with your thumb and use your other thumb to change the ISO value right there. And that's it. Those are your three settings. The next thing I want to show you is the shooting modes on the camera. Now, let's say for example you want to take a bunch of pictures quickly. To go ahead and change that, and by the way, you can either press I or half press your shutter button. If you click this little dial here, this little button here has like a bunch of little boxes. Similar to the Canon 60D, there was a little mode here for the drive that had the little tiny boxes. Same thing for this. You're going to go ahead and press that button and then you'll see this option show up. Let's say for example I want to shoot some sports So I'm gonna go ahead and navigate to H plus, or the H with a bunch of boxes, and then I'll be able to go ahead and take a bunch of pictures quickly. Now, if I go back to that mode and I press the that little button, if I change it to single frame, it'll only take one picture once. Oh, I didn't actually change it. Let me go back to that. There we go. There. If I press the shutter button down, it'll only take one picture. And then also there is a timer option. You can go to the 10-second option right here. And if you click on that, it will wait 10 seconds, then take a picture. So if you want to be in a group picture, use that option if you have it on a tripod. Okay, so that's that. Now let's talk about drive mode. On this camera, remember the drive button I showed you is that H plus that lets you take a bunch of pictures quickly, like on the Canon. And then you press the drive button, you can just change those to change that function. On the Nikon over here, if you press I, and you press I again, you'll get access to your settings here very quickly. And this is my recommendation for the Nikon D5200. Press it again, I. You can go ahead and change the image quality. If you go to where it says norm, and you press OK, you can actually change it to RAW and choose RAW right there, and you press OK. And now the camera is set to take pictures in RAW. For the most part, we don't shoot in RAW unless I designate an assignment for that. I'm gonna go ahead and press I again and I again to access my secondary menu. I'm gonna click on RAW. This time I'm gonna change it to fine. Fine, that's our JPEG, click OK. And then you go to the side, you can change the image size of here. So maybe you don't want the JPEG to be that big, maybe I want it smaller, click M. If you want it even smaller, press S for small. But I'm gonna leave it on regular size L, and then click OK. Next, I'm not gonna worry about brackets, I'm not gonna worry about HDR, active light, I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm actually gonna just turn that off. White balance, I'm just gonna leave it on auto. White balance. And ISO, I'm not gonna worry about that because we can change it. Okay. All right, the next thing I wanna do is change the autofocus mode. So on the back here, you're gonna notice there's an option here that says AF area mode and AFS. AFS is our focusing mode. So I'm gonna click the OK button on that, and I have 4 options. AFA is kind of your auto mode, and it kind of figures out between taking portraits to taking sports. Ideally, you don't want to use this mode. I'm gonna press I again. S is for taking pictures of portraits, and C, continuous servo, is our dedicated sports focusing mode, and that's the one I want you to use. Manual focusing mode is really meant for those that have a tripod and have additional time to take a picture, but you don't really want to mess around with this at this time. I'm going to set this back on AFA for now, and then click OK. Right here for the AF area mode, I'm going to press OK, and you're going to see a bunch of these options. You have single point, you have 9 points, you have 21, 39, 3D, and auto area AF. The best thing I recommend is to actually just leave the camera at 39. That's going to give us 39 focus points in the box inside the viewfinder that we can choose. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to that. Unlike the Canon only has, I believe, 11 focus points, but the Nikon gives you 39. So it actually has more focus points available for you. So I'm going to try and do my best to actually show you this. Now, if you can see there, you can actually see me changing the focus points inside of the camera. All I'm doing is pressing the left, right, up and down arrow keys, or the joystick on the camera. Now, to activate the focus point changing, you have to press the shutter button halfway first while you're looking inside, and then you can go ahead and navigate and move the focus points. If you don't press the shutter button halfway, you will not activate the focus mode changes, and you probably will not be able to change those focus points there for you to help you set it up. So that's the basics of the camera. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the menu system. I'm going to click menu. Now the menu system is a little bit tricky to navigate, so I'm going to go ahead and press the back arrow key. Now there's these menus on the side. On Canon, they're up on the top, but for Nikon, they're on the side. So if I press the left button again, I'll access these left menus and I can go up and down the menu system. The first one deals with playback right here, and if I press right, I can go ahead and change these settings here. I can click left and go back, I can go down. This is my shooting menu, and it lets me change some of the settings I saw earlier. I can change the image quality to fine, I can change it to raw, whatever, it's up to you. And there's other settings here that you really don't have to worry about for now. There's also custom settings menus. We won't talk about that right now. Setup menus where you want to be at, where this wrench is at. I'm going to go ahead and press this way to the right and go to my format memory card. I'm going to press OK, and then this will allow me to format the card. And then you can change some of the settings here, but again, like I said earlier, you really won't have to mess around with the settings inside of here. As long as you navigate the settings that are back here, you can pretty much do most of your changes on this screen from this menu mode. And that is the Nikon D5200. So that is how you change the settings on your DSLR camera, whether it's Nikon or Canon. They all work exactly the same, they're just a little bit different. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.